Good day, everyone. I'm Ethan, moderator for this webinar. Welcome everyone for today's webinar, Advanced Excel Skills for Accountants. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, David H. Ringstrom. David H. Ringstrom, CPA, is an author and nationally recognized instructor. I would now like to hand over the floor to one of the best IT speaker, David H. Ringstrom.
Thank you, Ethan. Hello, everyone. I'm David Ringstrom, a CPA in Atlanta. Welcome to Advanced Excel Skills for Accountants. Over the course of our time together today, we're going to delve into several different areas of Excel. We're going to start out with a couple of disaster recovery, or hopefully disaster prevention even, techniques that you can apply so that you can reduce some of that risk of Excel spreadsheets going proof on you unexpectedly. From there, we're going to look at lookup functions. We'll start out with the VLOOKUP function, which you may have experience with, transition into index and match, which a lot of people will finish out the presentation looking at Power Query, which is a feature that is not new in Excel. It's been around for a number of years, but it's definitely hiding out under the radar for a lot of folks. And it is a tremendous tool for automating how we transform reports, particularly accounting reports. And so that's the kind of the arc that we'll follow today. I'll be teaching from the Microsoft 365 version of Excel. So with that, let's begin by letting me show you a couple of disaster recovery techniques. Now, I will preface this by saying that these techniques are relevant if you're saving files to your local computer or to maybe a network drive. To get there, we're going to start by clicking on the File menu. Step 2, we'll go to Options. Step 3, we're going to choose Save. So in the Excel Options dialog box, we want to be in the Save section. And Step 4 points out the Save Auto Recover Information setting. And then to access these files, you can access them in two ways. One, let's say that you close the workbook accidentally without saving. The next time we go into Excel, if we go to File and then Open, on the Recent menu, at the bottom of the Recent menu, we'll see a command that says Recover Unsaved Workbooks. And when we make that choice, that puts us in the Unsaved Workbooks folder, where we can then access any files that we closed without saving. Files stay there for 3 or 4 days. This next setting is workbook specific, and it's one that you may wish to set for critical workbooks. To get to this setting, we're going to start by going to the File menu. Step 2, we'll go to Save As. Step 3, we want to click on the Tools button, which is next to the Save button. Step 4, we'll choose General Options. Step 5, that gives us an Always Create Backup, or gives us a General Options dialog box. And Step 5, the checkbox that we want to click is Always Create Backup, and then click OK. The granddaddy of all lookup functions in Excel is the VLOOKUP function, where if you want to reference a piece of data that's someplace else in the spreadsheet, you have to manually create that reference. So we'd go to cell B2, we type an equal sign, we go over to column D, we track down column D, figure out what row our data is on, which is on row 2, go across to column H, click on that cell, press enter, and create that direct reference. So the VLOOKUP function has 4 arguments, or 4 things that it needs to know. First thing it needs to know is what is our lookup value. So the lookup value is what are we looking for. The table array is then the cell coordinates of the list. For the table array, we definitely want dollar signs in front of the column and row number. The go-to approach over the years has been the index and match functions. That's because it eliminates a lot of the issues that VLOOKUP has, because what we're doing is we're segregating the functionality. So the match function is going to, in this case, identify the row that we want. The index function will then return the data from the column that we specify. Because these two functions are independent functions, that means that match can reference any column that we want, and then index can return data from any column that we want. So the match function has 3 arguments. There is the lookup value. There is I forget the exact name, but it's not a table array, it's the lookup array, which is going to be a single column or a single row, and then we put 0 for an exact match. The index function has 3 arguments. The first 2 are required, the third one is optional. So we're going to specify an array, and then we'll use the match function to display the row number. We could optionally put a second match and have it do a double lookup. So XLOOKUP is available in Excel 2021 and also Microsoft 365. Now, XLOOKUP actually has 6 arguments, and I'm going to start out with showing you the first 3 because that's the bare minimum that's required. So it's provide a lookup value, a lookup array, which is similar to the match function, will be a single row or single column, because unlike VLOOKUP, which can only look up and down a column, XLOOKUP can look across rows or down columns. So XLOOKUP replaces both VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. And then we have a return array, which are the cell coordinates of what do we want to return. For XLOOKUP, you can create a lookup that entails using multiple criteria. XLOOKUP can return values to multiple cells. Not only can it display results across multiple cells, we can also wrap the sum function around the outside of XLOOKUP and then basically look up multiple values and then add them up in one single formula. Now, there's one pesky thing that can happen when you are working with any sort of lookup function, where you can have a disconnect where your formula is written correctly, but it still can't find the match that you want. So this brings us to Power Query. Power Query is a tool that we can use to transform reports such as this one into analysis-ready formats. On the home menu, I can click Remove Rows. I can say Remove Top Rows. It says 2 here, but I'm actually going to get rid of 3 rows and then click OK. And then I'll say Use First Row as Headers. That will take the first row and move the headings up into the worksheet frame. So we'll choose Transform, Fill, and then Down. Then we will filter the Date column and we'll clear the checkbox for Null. That will weed out the blank rows and the totals, and then we'll just have just the actual transaction rows. So one last thing I want to share with you is that when you do use Power Query, you will then encounter a new data security prompt that will appear. So if I were to close this file and reopen it, when I open it, I'm going to see this Enable Content button there. It can't refresh the data until I click Enable Content. But rather than clicking that button, don't click there. Instead, go to the File menu, go to Info, click the secondary Enable Content, and then say Enable All Content. All right, well, that brings us to the end of my prepared comments for today.
Thanks, David. That was a wonderful webinar.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for participating. You may all disconnect now.